Pitting evolution against Scripture is largely grounded in the assumption that there is only one proper and well-defined way to interpret Scripture, and only one correct interpretation of any given passage. But this has never been the case, either in the history of religion or even in any religious tradition or community today. In fact, as we will discuss in the next module, among those who accept the authority of Scripture, there are a variety of interpretive strategies that can lead to different conclusions about what Scripture claims. Moreover, even among those who affirm the same methods for interpreting Scripture, frequently may disagree about the interpretation of any given passage. This presents an especially complex problem for evangelical Protestants who rarely have a single head or authoritative body responsible for determining doctrine, such as those we find in both the Catholic and Latter-day Saint traditions, where the Pope or Prophet, respectively, provide an interpretation for a Scripture considered binding upon all church members. This is not to say that Protestants possess no interpretive authorities. Various streams of Protestantism will, for instance, look to a particular reformer or founder for guidance. Thus, Lutherans have Martin Luther, Presbyterians have John Calvin, Episcopalians have Richard Hooker, and Methodists have John Wesley. And the theologies of these individuals serve as highly regarded interpretive lenses within their respective traditions. Similarly, given the large decentralized structures and congregational independence of many Protestant groups, it is often popular preachers and teachers, or local pastors, who fulfill this interpretive role. We also find a great deal of diversity within those traditions with well-defined interpretive authorities, for both Catholics and members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Doctrinal statements do not provide formal interpretations for every passage of Scripture, nor do they always interpret Scriptures in the ways that confine them to only one interpretation. Rather, while doctrinal statements do establish constraints on what Scripture can be deemed to teach, these doctrines are often written vaguely enough to allow for a range of interpretations within those constraints. So while religious groups with strongly defined doctrine do not allow for the great array of interpretation that we find among Protestants, there is still allowance for a variety of interpretations. We will discuss this further in the next section on the authority of doctrine. It is helpful, then, that teachers introduce our students to the rich world of scriptural interpretation, noting differences between traditions and the diversity that exists within them, including even within local communities. Students need to know that a commitment to the full authority and reliability of Scripture does not preclude entertaining differing interpretations of Scripture, including those passages considered to conflict with the claims of evolutionary science. Indeed, countless committed religious people have changed their minds about evolution over the last 2 centuries, but without questioning the authority of Scripture. Rather, such acceptance has been eased by changes in their understanding of how to interpret Scripture and/or their interpretation of actual Scriptures.